I also want to just give a big thanks to the Unity Band for showing up here all the time. These guys work hard.
Yes, they do.
They work really hard. All right, Easter Sunday. You know, every time I think about Easter, every year, I always learn so much more. Like the story just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And this year, as I was kind of looking at our Easter story, I did realize that Easter is about saying yes to heaven, yes to source, yes to God, yes to, spirit, whatever you want to call that. This story is about saying yes to all that, because Easter is a story of transformation. It's a story of rising above. It is a story of overcoming. But Easter is also a story about grace. And grace is the givingness of spirit to its creations. Anything that you could possibly need. Anything you need right here, right now, to live your divine assignment. Grace is the gift that we don't have to earn. It's just always available to us. We just have to say yes to grace. Now, our sacred assignment on this planet is the same as the sacred assignment that teacher Yeshua the Christ had when he was here 2,000 years ago. He called it doing the work of the Father. And we could say in our modern time that our sacred assignment is living in faith, calling forth the power of our soul. It's the doing of greater things, all these things and even greater. And so we are making choices all through our lives. We make choices, and they're either based in faith or they're based in fear. Sometimes our choices are really difficult. Sometimes they are easy. But living our sacred assignment, we're going to have to make some choices that are hard choices, because to live our sacred assignment of walking in faith means we're going to have to let go of a behavior that keeps us from walking in faith. That behavior is going to look like a temptation, or it's going to look like an excuse, a really good excuse. Now, Yeshua, he did choose to live his sacred assignment. And we talked a little bit about this last week with Palm Sunday, but he said yes to his sacred assignment, which is to do the work of his Father, and then he got baptized by water. Now, baptism by water represents denial. And like in Unity, we have our denials and our affirmations. So our denial is that we just deny that a condition outside of us can have power over how we show up in this life. Right? There's no condition out there that can control how we show up every day. If we show up in faith, if we show up in love, no matter what's going on out there, right? Whatever's going on out there, it cannot control how we decide to show up. Now, in this moment, when Yeshua made this decision, that was also his commitment, that there would be no conditions that could control how he showed up to do the work of his Father. And he even said that he would not rely on his own understanding, but only on the wisdom of the Father within him. Then he spent 40 days in the desert, and he had to face his adversary. He had to face down temptation. He had to face up to his excuses, and he had to actually make the choice. Did he want the comfortable, easy life that he knew? Or did he want to actually take on that role of Messiah, which could end up being a very difficult thing to do? And so he decided. In that 40 days, he faced down his temptations, he faced his excuses, and he said yes to his sacred assignment. And this is not the last time he'll have to say yes. Right? For us, we will say yes over and over again. So then we have Palm Sunday. He rode into Jerusalem, and Jerusalem represents the heart of spiritual wisdom and understanding. Jerusalem is the place where we can feel this truth of being the spiritual being that we are. And so he rode into Jerusalem to now live his sacred assignment. He had claimed his title of the Christ. He knew he fit the bill as the Messiah. So he rides into town to do the work of his Father, healing, teaching, ministering, just anywhere that he could go. Now, this is the first part of his journey. And most of us could do that. With our sheer force of will, we could decide, okay, I know my sacred assignment, and I'll deal with my excuses and I'm going to live this. Like with the sheer force of will, most of us could get that far. Okay, but then there is a point in the story where it's only possible to go forward with the gift of grace. It takes grace to get through the most difficult things he's going to have to face. It takes grace for us to get through the most difficult challenges that we'll face. And so the next part of this story is really a turning point. There's the Last Supper, and teacher Yeshua shared a Passover supper with his disciples. Then he went to the garden, Gethsemane, to pray. And Gethsemane represents a place of spiritual crisis. So Yeshua went to pray, and he invited Peter, James, and John to come with him. And he asked them to just sit and pray and keep watch because he was deeply grieved. See, now his journey is looking a lot different. Now living his sacred assignment is looking a lot different than when he was baptized by water. When he was getting his baptism, all the hard stuff was still so into the future that where he was standing, he could just getting baptized, everything just looked cool. And this can happen with us. We make our initial commitment, we think, wow, that's going to be fantastic. But then when we hit a turning point where now we really have to make some sacrifices, this can be really hard. And so this was a hard time of suffering for Yeshua. So he's in the garden, he asks his friends to pray and keep watch, and they fall asleep. They can't even stay awake with him. So he goes to them, wakes them up, says, I need you to stay awake, pray and keep watch. And he goes back to his praying. And you know this prayer, please take this cup from me. He's decided now he does not want to do this. He'll do it if it's what's required. He'll do it if his sacred assignment won't change. He'll do it because he committed to it. But now he doesn't want to do it. His disciples have fallen asleep one more time. They fell asleep 3 times on him. He tells them, I need you to stay awake. He says, I know it's been a long day, but they can't stay awake for him. They can't stay there with him. They can't be with him to make those hard choices. There's even an angel comes to give him strength, but not comfort. The angel gives him strength to do the hard thing. And he has to make this decision all on his own. He doesn't have anybody there. Nobody there to offer an excuse. Well, this would be pretty hard. Why don't we just go? Right? There's nobody there to do that. There's nobody there to say, you can do this. Right? It's all on him. So ultimately, he knows what he has to do, and he does it. And then comes the crucifixion, where he dies to this life that he is in. He dies to everything that he really needs to give up, that needs to be gone. He dies to everything, and then he spends 3 days in the tomb. 3 days in the tomb, where he's resting in the arms of God and in heaven and spirit. And on the 3rd day, he rises. And he rises a fully conscious being. Fully conscious. Then he spends 40 days preparing his disciples to go out and teach, to spread this message that anybody who acts in faith, anybody who believes in all this, that they will also do greater things. Because that was Yeshua's whole ministry. All that I can do, you will do in greater. Just love the Father, love each other. Right? His ministry was a really simple one. It was about love and calling forth Spirit into our lives to do greater things, and not relying on our own limited understanding, not relying on our own perceptions, because our perceptions can be cloudy. Our perceptions are based on our experiences, and we don't have the view from heaven in our own perceptions. We don't have the view from Spirit. We don't have the eagle eye view on this. Only through Spirit within us do we have the eagle eye view. So he said yes to heaven again. Now, this is our journey. Like, none of us will have to go through the extreme things that Yeshua went through. But, we can start off our journey. We can start off thinking, yeah, I know what my sacred assignment is, right? My sacred assignment, like all of us, our sacred assignment is to do the work of our Father in our lives. Our sacred assignment is to live in faith and act on faith, do the work of our soul, call forth these greater things, right? We all have the same basic assignment. Right? We're calling the divine through us and out into our lives. and choosing from faith. Because it's choosing from faith that calls forth more of the divine into our lives. Choosing from fear, we get it all backed up. Choosing from fear, we stay stuck in our problems. But choosing from faith, we're calling forth more greatness into our lives. So to do this, we have to do the same thing that Christ did. We also have to face down some things in our lives, right? So Easter, it's kind of a story about alchemy. Easter is a story about transforming and transcending and transmuting. It's a story about sacrificing a life that doesn't actually work for us. We're sacrificing a life. We have to die to a life that doesn't support our being able to live in faith and call forth greater good. All of us already, everybody in this room, every person on the planet, already has the capacity to live life in tune with the infinite. All of us have the capacity to call forth the divinity within us. All of us have that capacity. It's all there. We're divinely designed to do all this. But we have to choose from faith instead of fear. We have to choose from faith, which is unknown and unprecedented. When we choose from fear, it's often said that when we're choosing from fear, we're choosing from the familiar. We're choosing from our comfort zone. But the familiar and being in our comfort zone is not always actually a comfortable place. It's not a happy place. And it occurs to me that to choose from fear, we're actually choosing the enemy that we know. That's choosing from fear. We're choosing the enemy that we know, that we feel like we can already deal with. Imagine choosing the enemy you know instead of the unknown, the unprecedented. So we're making choices also every day. So we get to face down our temptations, just like Christ did. We can start off by committing, with our water baptism, we could commit to not letting the conditions control us. We can go through our 40 days in the desert, and this is where we're facing down temptations, the temptations to stay the same. We face down our excuses, and I will say I'm the queen of excuses and justifying bad behavior. I've gotten really good at it. And so, I have an excuse for everything. I just finally got tired of not having what I wanted. And so I had to start noticing that I was using excuses all the time. So we can commit to creating greater in our lives, but until we actually start choosing from faith and doing something about it, we are postponing our good. We're postponing our good. Heaven, Spirit, God, it inspires you to do something. It will give you an idea to do something new. And usually this idea is always centered around greater good in your life, greater abundance in your life, supporting your well-being. This is what the inspiration is always going to guide us to increase, right? Greater good in our lives. Now imagine that if you get inspired to do something, and I'll use working out as an example because it's just a really good example. But say that you decide, New Year's resolutions, the 95% of people say, well, I'm going to go work out at the gym 5 days a week, right? And so we decide, okay, I'm going to start this, and we can feel excited about starting something, even though we haven't even done it yet. But then we say, well, I'm really tired today. I don't feel good today. My back hurts today. We've just postponed our good. I just don't feel like it. Or maybe there's something else in our lives we want to create. And my go-to was, well, I want to create this great experience, but I need to take one more workshop, need to read another book. I need to have somebody train me who really is super smart and they're a guru, right? So I always had an excuse for not actually stepping into the unity principles, right? As simple as they are, I still needed an expert to point out to me again one more time how to do this, right? Because I just wasn't doing it. Often our excuses, we say no to heaven. We say no to our inspirations when we say, well, I need a little more money first. Well, I need more support in my life. I need a guarantee. I need a guarantee that this is going to work out. Or how about, one of my excuses was, I need somebody else to do all this work for me so I can just step into it and it's already all fixed. Like, who would be that person that could lose weight for me? Just raise your hand. I would like to know. Right? But remember Yeshua's time in the garden? His disciples, though they loved him, they could not be there for him during those hard choices, during the dark choices. They could not be there. He was all on his own. Whenever we have an excuse, okay, well, I can't work on this addiction today because I need to figure something out about it. We have our excuses, and we say no to heaven. That's what we're saying in that moment. We're saying, no, not right now. Now, this is some major league stuff here, because we're saying no to our good. What are we throwing away when we say no? What are we throwing away when we say, well, not now, how about a week from Monday? We're throwing away greater good in our lives, is what we're doing. Every time we say no to heaven, not right now, it's just not a good time for me, we're throwing away the chance to expand more good through us, more abundance through us. Like, right, who would actually say, well, today's not a good day for me to create more abundance? Like, nobody would say that. Yet we do say that. We do say that. So you can see why the Easter story is also a story of grace. Because there's some hard things in our life that we're going to have to get rid of, that we have to say no to, that we have to release. Excuses can be like addictions. And they're always there. And the thing is that our little me, that little voice in our head that wants to talk us out of all these adventures, gets really good at choosing excuses. And when one excuse works really well on us, it'll hit us with that excuse over and over again. And it's in our own voice in our head, and we're going to think it makes sense. So this is why we say no over and over again. This time, the time we spend in the desert, it's not at a resort. Like, it's not Palm Springs desert. It's Death Valley desert. Right? It's Joshua Tree in August. Like, with nobody around. Okay, so the first part of our journey, remember this, from the water baptism through Palm Sunday, that's pretty easy to get to. Like, most of us have gotten that far. Most of us have done that. But you know what? There were actually other possible messiahs back in the time of Yeshua, before and after. There were other messiahs who got, or possible messiahs, who got at least that far. There was one Messiah who came after Yeshua, and he was captured by the Muslims and told, well, you can either convert to Islam or we're going to put you to death. And he said, okay, I'll convert. Like, there's no hard choice there, right? So Yeshua, he did some things that nobody else did. Like, he took his divine assignment really seriously. And he said yes to heaven over and over and over again. He never took the easy way out. So the grace of wisdom is what helps us keep our eyes, our focus on the wonder that is God. Because when we are focusing on the wonder that is God, on the wonder that is this universe, on the wonder that is the synchronicities happening in our lives, the signs and the wonders that present themselves to us, right? The gifts of grace and the miracles. Keeping our eye on the wonder that is God keeps us from staring down the conditions in our life and wanting those conditions to change so we can be happy. You know, most of the time, we don't have control over those conditions. There are right now about 1 million conditions happening on this planet that a lot of us are pretty unhappy about. And there's nothing we can do about most of them. So we keep our eye on the wonder that is God instead. Because this is what allows us to call forth divine inspiration and ideas and to act in faith. And then we're loading up our own little universe with so much love and goodness and abundance, it starts spilling out into the little universes of the people around us. Keeping our eyes on the wonder that is God. Grace guides us to use wisdom to step into the next brightest version of ourselves. Not the easy version of ourselves, But the version of ourselves is going to take some sacrificing of bad behaviors. We're going to have to deny conditions. We're going to have to make the affirmations of what it is we really want to create in our lives and remind ourselves over and over again who we really are and where we come from and what it is that we are here to do. Like you could say we're here to call forth the wonder that is God also. We seek it, only the wonder that is God, and we call forth the wonder that is God. But grace gives us also the courage and the fortitude we need to make those hard changes. Right? To make those changes, like nobody wants to, right? Who would want to give up cookies? Like on a good day, who would want to actually give it up? Who would give it up by choice, right? So grace gives us also gives us understanding to know, to see, to experience that the voice of wisdom is usually not a complex recipe for us to follow. The voice of wisdom, it's profound, but it's simple, right? It's simple. It's the things. It's the little voice in our head that says, "Just drink more water." You know, I was talking with Nick last week about, because I'd had a couple of dizzy spells, and he first thing he says was, "Are you dehydrated?" And boing, right there in my head, I was just thinking I was tired. But that's how wisdom comes through to us. I was like, oh right, I drank like a teaspoon of water yesterday. Wisdom is easy. It's easy for us to understand. It's not going to give us a complicated thing that we need to go get our master's degree in something first so that we can act on it. Wisdom will always give us something we can do right here and right now. It reminds us that it's okay for us to ask for help. Like my favorite help to ask for is, how can I see this another way? How can I look at this differently? How can I see the wonder that is God right now when I'm really aggravated at this condition that's going on? Like, how can I see the wonder that is God? In the Course in Miracles, it says, every situation properly perceived, and we properly perceive things from heaven's view, from the eagle eye view, right, from faith. Every situation properly perceived becomes an opportunity to heal. You know, we're choosing to see things in a certain way every day. We see things through, and I heard this from Carolyn Mace, we either see a situation from woe or we see a situation through wisdom. When we see a situation through woe, of course we are like, oh, woe to me, look at this bad thing over there, I don't like that, and it needs to change so I can be happy again, and that's not fair that this happened, and I don't like that, and it smells funny, and things need to change. That's the voice of woe. And the voice of wisdom, like, okay, maybe I don't like that thing. What can I do? What's the next right thing that I could do then right here and right now? How could I see this thing differently? How could I see the wonder that is God when this thing's aggravating me so? How? How could I see the wonder that is God? When we start looking at our life through our spiritual lens, through wisdom, through grace, through the wonder that is God, nothing ever looks the same again. Problems don't seem like insurmountable things. We understand that, like with a problem, we can just make a new choice, right? We can focus on God. We're not going to see ourselves. This was a big one for me. When I would get caught up in problems, I would see myself as lacking resources, but also lacking, and this is the big one, lacking inner resourcefulness. We don't tap into our inner resourcefulness unless we can walk in faith, right? Unless we can not ask the questions based in fear, but inner resourcefulness. That's a gift of grace that's always available to us because there's always something that we can do next. There's always something. Now, as we are bringing more light into our lives, things start changing in our life at the speed of light. Okay, I'm gonna say that again. As we bring more light into our lives, as we seek the truth of God in all things, as we just choose to focus only on the wonder that is God, as we choose through faith Things happen at the speed of light in our life because it's not weighed down by fear. Things weighed down by fear and problems carry a vibrational weight too, so they don't move as fast. So when we're calling forth more light into our lives, things change at the speed of light. So here is our call to action for this week. We have this great affirmation. Let's say it here together. I am here to call forth the glory that is God into my life. Right? The glory that is God. That's some big stuff. The glory that is God is major league stuff. What are you tolerating right now? What are you settling for right now? What are you waiting for it to change so then life can be good? That's not calling forth the glory that is God. Like, we're not designed to be tolerating and sitting around and waiting. You are not here to settle. Calling forth the glory of God is to be the biggest, boldest, brightest version of yourself that you can be in this moment. Calling forth the glory of God is to carry as much light as possible in this body, in this moment. And the more we practice carrying the light, the more light we carry. That's what we're designed to do, right? This is how we bring forth greater things in our life. This is how we do greater things in our life. But see, we can't do any of this stuff without faith and without grace. Without grace guiding us to understand how wisdom is always available to us, and that we just need to act on it. Like the minute that it comes into our life. Wisdom gives us the ability to act in the moment, in all the ordinary moments. I used to think of wisdom as something I would seek when I had a complicated problem. But actually, wisdom guides us through the normal, everyday stuff. We're supposed to be using it all the time. We're supposed to be calling forth grace all the time. Like, what is an issue that you're dealing with right now? Right? Is it a relationship issue, a financial issue? Is it a career, job issue? Right? A healing issue? Wisdom is there. Grace is there to tell us, well, here's the next best thing you could do right now. And it's simple. Because wisdom will only tell us to do what we can actually do in that moment. Like, so what is that for us? Right? So wisdom's not just available for complicated things. It's not just for those insurmountable challenges. It's for the everyday stuff too. Grace is what helps us see that God is in our bones and in our cells and in our ideas and inspiration, and our soul is the engine that's driving all of this right now. So we're here to live our sacred assignment, but it's not like a have to. We get to live our sacred assignment, because as we are living our sacred assignment, we are more in alignment with the divine and with the infinite within us than we ever could be when we're living our sacred assignment. We are here to thrive doing that sacred assignment and call forth the glory that is God. And that's the big stuff. That's the beautiful stuff. That's the happy stuff. That's the joyful stuff. That's the stuff that moves us forward into that next best experience that we could have. It's calling forth the glory of God is what expands our territory and allows us to be a greater influence of good and love and compassion to people around us. Calling forth the glory of God is what allows all the good that we create in our little universe to spill over into everybody else's little universes. And that's how we're creating heaven on earth. So until next time, remember, you are divinely designed to be doing all this stuff, because you are the activity of God walking around on this planet. You are the activity of spirit and light in motion. In everything you do, you are blessed, and so it is. Thank you.